redirected. Score! Game 7! Montez St. Louis! We are going back to Tampa Bay! Cavalier spinning. Cavalier looking. Trying to drop it off. Brings it in himself. Left it in the middle. Shot! Score!
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Thunderstruck with your host Philip Wunderlich and of course your co-host Jake Ricker. What's going on, Jake?
Nothing much, Phil. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to the game tonight and very excited as the Lightning are playing extremely well over these last couple of days, or weeks rather.
They have been playing really well. You know, they've won 8 games straight. One of our favorite players, Nikita Kucherov, is on a 4-game point streak, and it doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon.
No, not at all. Kucherov is playing really well. You can see a couple of plays that he'll make where he has some mistakes, but Kuch consistently bounces back. And he, especially this year, is making good plays on the assist side of things. He's been a real playmaker for us, which has been really nice. You know, even though he hasn't had the scoring that he did last year, he's making up for it in assists, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, and like I was telling you before, you know, he's kind of switched roles almost. Like he said, he became, you know, he's more of a sniper, and now he's become more of a playmaker, almost like Stamkos how he was last year.
Yep, definitely. And that's perfectly okay with all of our players that we have that can, you know, come in and play all these different roles. We have so many guys that can make up and fill in for all these different, you know. So it's really good to see Kucherov stepping up here and taking over that assist role. We need a guy like that too on the team. It's very important to have. Not every guy on the team can always be focused on scoring.
Well, not only that too. I mean, majority of the time, Cooper has split up Stamkos and Kucherov, so it's kind of like providing like a 1-2 punch almost. You know, it's not only that those two lines have been performing well, but what about that Cirelli line? That Cirelli line's been really hot, huh?
Cirelli line has been fantastic, especially on the penalty kill. They are jumping on pucks. They're quick to pucks. They don't give the other team much time to think about what they're doing, which forces them to make quick decisions and end up making bad decisions. So very happy with the way that line is performing. Cirelli and Joseph have been both really hot lately, and I hope to continue to see that out of them.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Joseph, you know, he is placed on IR. Probably won't be playing on this road trip, but, you know, you'll obviously hope for his return. And another person that I want to kind of point out is Eric Cernak. Eric Cernak has been playing really well. But it looks like he's going to be the kind of like the odd man out now with Stralman coming back tonight.
Yeah, Cernak has filled in very nicely Stralman's absence. He's played very well, and I hope we continue to see that for him in the future. But yeah, I definitely think he'll be scratched. You know, with Stralman coming back, Stralman is the main guy here. But he's a great guy to have for when players do go down. Perfect example of him coming in when Stralman went down. So, you know, that's the way of the game. You're going to get replaced when a big-time starter like that comes back. But I don't think this is the end of Cernak by any means, and we will definitely see him in the future.
Yeah, so what you're basically saying is that you agree with him being scratched? I mean, I kind of would have liked to see him in the lineup instead of maybe like Girardi or so. But you're saying that it's right for him to be scratched?
No, yeah, I think it is. He's still very young in his career, remember, as well. So you're going to want to give him some time off as well so he can watch these players play and continue to develop. Girardi is a little bit of an older guy. He's a veteran on the team, so he is going to get that playing time. Yes, Cernak is probably as good or even a little bit better than Girardi. However, I'm perfectly okay with this move as all of our players have been playing really well. And it's not like Girardi has been playing atrociously. He's made some great plays on defense as well. So I don't mind this at all.
No, like you said, I agree with you about the Girardi statement. You know, Girardi has been playing decent, especially for the defense side of things, just because, you know, you don't always need people to score for you on your defense. It's always nice when you have someone like that, but at the same time, you don't always need someone like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have Hedman, who's obviously more offensive than anything else. I mean, he can play defense, don't get me wrong, but, he's more known for his offense, whereas someone like I say, Girardi is more known for his defense. But going back to the penalty kill, our penalty kill is one of the top in the league right now, right?
Correct. The penalty kill is number 3, I believe, with the power play also being up there at number 5. But yes, the penalty kill has been fantastic and has continued to get better, which is really good to see. Because if you remember last year, only one of our special team sides was playing well. And to have both of them going at a high rate right now is great. And I think a big thing for our penalty kill this year has been the way we're playing it. We're playing it a lot different. If you look at games from last year, you'll notice that they played a lot more relaxed, so to speak, where they would wait to see what developed and then try to defend that. This year, it's more of get on these guys, make them make quick passes, try and force them to lose the puck quickly so they never get any of those opportunities off in the first place. And Cirelli and Joseph have been a huge part of this penalty kill in getting the puck and then getting the puck into our offensive zone and getting shots on net. We've scored multiple shorthanded goals this year. So the penalty kill has been looking very well, and I hope this continues. I think it will continue. It showed no signs of slowing down yet.
Yeah, it's really incredible on how our penalty kill and power play has been performing this year. And it's kind of interesting, too, if you look at the scores lately, our team has been scoring basically 5 or more goals every night. What do you think is going right with the team so far, just to see that it's producing a high scoring chances?
A big part of that is our depth scoring. A lot of players, the bottom 6 players are playing well in shooting the puck, and that's a big part of it. So I think, all of our players, as I've mentioned before, are rolling on all cylinders, which is a big help to the offense and the top scorers because it makes teams focus on these other guys that you might not normally think of as a big threat. And then that leaves guys like Kucherov, Stamkos more open and gives them a better opportunity to score even more goals.
Yeah, and then one person I wanted to point out too, like you said, is depth scoring. So, someone that's been performing really well it's been depressing me this season is Cedric Paquette. Cedric Paquette, he usually isn't on the score sheet, but like you said, with the more open room now, he's getting those gritty goals in front of the net and stuff. So it's really nice for him to do well right now.
Yeah, Paquette's been looking good. Paquette has been a lot more consistent, which I think is the big thing for him. We usually see him come in little sparks, so to speak, where he'll have a couple good games and then kind of drop off again. But Paquette's been playing well recently. A big part of his game, too, is the physical side of things. He has over 130 hits on the season, which is, huge for a team like the Lightning, who is mostly built around speed. And we don't have many guys that are going to be able to, try to knock off the other team and throw them off their game. So Paquette is a big help to that. Him and Callahan are the 2 main guys. Paquette's presence has been big, and he's starting to score now too, which is even more of a help.
Right, and I think that's one of the top stats in the league with the hitting. It's kind of nice too, like I said, with the depth scoring, and not only Paquette, but like I said, Killorn has been playing pretty decent. It's always nice, like you said, that rely not only on the big superstars like Stamkos and Kucherov, but you can rely on the lower line players.
Exactly. Everything is going right for the Lightning right now. All things are going on all cylinders, so to speak. That's one of the reasons why the Lightning are doing so well and why we are the number 1 team in the league, and we're even ahead of where we were last year, which is really exciting to see.
And not only that, too, if you look at the experts' power standings as well, I mean, they're basically picking Tampa to run away with it.
Definitely. I believe they're saying the Lightning have a 99% chance of making the playoffs at this point, which is awesome for us. Now, of course, all that can change very quickly with a couple things going wrong, but as of right now, there's just no signs of anybody being able to beat the Lightning because we've beaten multiple top-tier opponents, Buffalo, Toronto, all teams that have been at the top of the league, and we've continuously shown that we can shut them down.
And the way that we played against Toronto, too, I mean, you saw that it almost looked like Anderson wasn't even in the game because of how well we're performing offensively. And, Vazzy stole the show as well. Toronto only scored on their second chance, and meanwhile, Vazzy stopped all 47 shots afterwards. I mean, he's been playing insane after injury too.
Yeah, Vasi has been huge, and he came back in a big way for us against Toronto. He will get the start tonight against Winnipeg, so I expect another big game out of him. That's just the type of player Vasilevsky is, and it was obviously a huge help. So that just shows you right there, even when the Lightning struggle on the defensive side of things, letting up a ton of shots, Vasi's there to bail them out. And when Vasi's not having a good night, the defense is usually there to bail him out as well. And speaking of goaltenders, shout out to Louis Domingue. He has played fantastic over these last couple of weeks with Vasi out. You know, coming from Arizona, where he did not have a good start to his time there, he has come over to Tampa Bay and has played very well. He basically looks like another starter for another NHL team. He was playing that well. So Domingue was very good, and I think he'll continue to do well in the backup role.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, I mean, some of these teams would like to have him as a starter. I mean, look at the way that Philadelphia's been struggling, and you know, it's basically they only need a starting goaltender. They'll be decent, but you know, it's nice that we have like I said before, like a 1-2 punch almost, because you know you don't always have to rely on Vazzy so heavily, as which we've done in the past, or he just got tired, and now you can rely on a backup goaltender to play a few more games for you. It's always nice because I mean you don't want to tire him out come playoffs.
Exactly, and that's the big thing right there, is that we can give Vasi more days of rest if he needs it, and Domingue can come in, and we cannot have a significant drop off in our goaltending.
And like you said before, we've gone 8 games straight. We won all the ones on the road trip, and we came back home. We won all those ones as well. So I'm basically just going to give you guys a quick recap. Or not a recap, more of a good going forward to seeing how we stack up against the next week's teams. You know, we play the Jets tonight. The Jets have some offensive scoring, but so do we. We really match up well on that. Defensive, I think our team is better defensively, and obviously in goaltending, it's 2 goaltending studs between Hellebuck and Vasilevsky.
Yeah, this is going to be a close matchup for sure. These are 2 of the top 2 teams in the league, so it'll be a fun one to watch for sure, and it's going to be close. I think the Lightning have the edge when it comes to overall play, because we have just about every aspect that you're going to need to win a game like this. So I'm looking for the Lightning to have another offensive game to be able to outscore the Jets. I think the Jets get a couple of goals, about 2 or 3, but I can easily see the Lightning score another 4 on this Jets team.
Yeah, and then, you know, we continue on this Canada road trip, and we play the Canucks, and basically all these next matchups are going to be Pacific teams. You know, like I say, they play the Canucks, and Canucks have, you know, Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat, so they're going to be, you know, some young offensive studs as well. And how do you think we match up against the Canucks?
These are some tough matchups coming up. I think the Canucks are a little bit easier opponent than the Jets, obviously, but still another tough one. I think for a lot of this road trip, it's a matter of how much are the Lightning going to do right, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, you know, the Lightning, like I mentioned, are playing so well on all ends. If the Lightning only have one major issue in the game, where maybe it's goaltending or defense or offense, whatever it may be, but all the other things are going right, they're going to win the game. That's how good they are right now. If, you know, we've got a couple of issues going on, like we're taking too many penalties and we're not playing well on defense, you know, then you could easily see these teams beating us. But if most things are going right for the Lightning, they're going to win these games. And a big part of that is the depth scoring. So hopefully that can continue over these next couple of games.
Well, speaking of making mistakes on the penalties, you know, you're right after to play the Canucks, you're going to face the Flames, who have a great power play. I mean, you know, you have Monahan and Gaudreau on the same line there, and you know, they've been playing really well also, and they're one of the top teams in the Pacific Division, so that one's going to be really difficult. And then you play the following day. I mean, on Saturday, you play the Oilers, which you play Connor McDavid, and we all know that Connor McDavid on any given night is a dynamic player.
Yeah, McDavid's the type of player that can come in and just shut down the entire game and defeat you single-handedly. So Lightning would make sure that they'll have to focus on him in making sure that he doesn't do that. And this is the big test for the Lightning. This is to see how legit they are. Now, obviously, if we lose most of these games, it's not the biggest deal in the world because we are up so high in the standings right now. I believe we're 6 points ahead of the second place team. And these are tough opponents, but you would definitely like to see the Lightning take majority of these games, obviously, and I think it's definitely possible. But expect some close matchups. These are going to be tough opponents. These aren't going to be easy games where we're going to be dominating for sure.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, we're 6 points up in the standings, but it's kind of interesting. You look at the teams, and the majority of the top teams are the Atlantic Division teams. I mean, we have really tough division this year. I mean, even teams that like you thought they wouldn't do too well, like for instance Montreal. Montreal was having a terrible season last season, and now they're in the top 15. So it's incredible to kind of see on how just 1 year will change a division.
Oh, for sure. The Atlantic and Pacific are both, I think, the two divisions with most of the top teams in the league. Our division's tough, that's for sure. But, we have also grown a lot. So we definitely have the ability to continue our success, and I think we will.
So I posted up something where I asked you guys for questions, and I had one question based on the expansion draft. And it's kind of interesting to see, Seattle did get a new team, and we don't know what they're going to be called yet, whether they're the Totems or the Sockeyes or whatever. But it's kind of interesting to see a team from Seattle come into the league and shifting Arizona into the Central Division. But the question is who we think that the Lightning might have to give up. Now, given the fact that you can only protect 7 skaters, three defensemen and 1 goaltender, or you can protect 8 skaters in general and 1 goalie. It's going to be really interesting to see, especially since it's a long ways away with the expansion draft. It's not coming until 21, 22. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see again, because you have, like I said, you have a long time away, and you don't really know what's going to happen with the contracts or stuff like that. But basically, thinking about it, who do you think might be exposed in the draft, or who might be taken?
For me, I have to look at our defense because we have a few guys in the minors right now that can come up in the next few years and replace some of these guys. And for example, Cal Foote, I think is going to be on this team very soon. So in looking at our defense, a guy that we still have on our team who's filled in a couple of times but still does just not have that big role in the Lightning is Slater Cuckoo. I could easily see the Lightning making a trade with the Seattle expansion team saying, hey, if you take Cuckoo, we'll give you this second round, third round pick, whatever it may be. I think that's definitely the best option for the Lightning. But like you mentioned, it is a couple years away, so we'll have to see where things go. Are we going to lose guys like Coburn, even Strawman, Girardi? Those guys probably aren't going to be here, so they might want to protect the defense a little more. So it's hard to say, but my guess would be Cuckoo because we have guys like Cernak and Foote who can come up and replace the guys that we may lose. So that would be my first guess, but we'll have to see where things go in the future.
So my only question is, because you said the defense, so basically we can only protect 3 defensemen. That would leave, obviously we protect Hedman because we'd have to, obviously we would want to as well. But then we have, if we re-sign Strawman, we probably would protect him as well. And then you protect Ryan McDonough. So that would actually give you a lot of players that you need to protect. If we don't protect Strawman, obviously protect Sergachev, because obviously you don't want to lose him for nothing either. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be really difficult to look at your defense and say, hey, like, this is what's going to happen, because, like I said, you have a lot of contracts coming up and stuff like that. So you don't, like you said, you don't know if you're going to re-sign Strawman, you don't know if you're going to re-sign Coburn or anything like that.
Right, and I think that's where the trade part of this comes into it, where the Lightning are going to know that they're probably going to have a couple of guys that they don't really want to get rid of, like maybe Strawman, that are going to be available to be taken, which is why they jump in and try to make a trade with Seattle to give them more draft picks for the future of that team, which is very important for an expansion team. I remember Vegas got tons and tons of draft picks over their first year coming into the league. So I think that's where that comes in, where the Lightning will play. They'll protect the guys. I think Hedman, McDonough are easily the first two guys you protect, and then it's a matter of Strawman or Sergachev. My guess would obviously be Sergachev because he's a lot younger and has a brighter future in Tampa Bay. So that's why I think we're going to make a trade specifically to keep them from taking any of our big-time defensemen, but we'll have to see what happens here in the next couple of years with contracts.
Yeah, and another thing too is that I'm actually watching Vegas right now, and it's insane to see how well the expansion team is doing, especially right now, because they just made the Stanley Cup final last season, and they didn't start out too well this season, but they're doing a lot better now. But it's crazy how GMs gave up certain players, like Jonathan Marchessault, who is becoming a superstar right now, and William Karlsson, who is the same boat right now. So you have to think that the GMs got smarter since the last expansion, because the only one that really made sense was getting rid of Garrison and Gusev for Yzerman there.
Yeah, and I think that was a big part of that was also a lot of talent on a lot of teams. For example, the Lightning, who ended up working out very nicely for them, but they have so many guys to protect, like we just mentioned, that it's hard to keep all of your superstars without making a trade, and not every team has the means to make these kinds of trades. So there's a lot of factors that play into that, and obviously Vegas benefited and got a lot of veteran good players, which is why they were so good their first year. They, like you said, they did have a little bit of a drop off early on here. It looks like they've kind of rebounded here. We'll see where this goes in the next couple of games over the course of the season. So definitely, Vegas lucked out, I think, a little bit. I think GMs will be a little bit smarter, but I think we could see a little bit of the same here if things continue the way they are. And I think that's just a test to how much talent's in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and like you said, it's really difficult to protect your superstars. You look at, like I said, a team like Tampa or even a team like Washington, where you have a lot of superstars on your team. It's hard to protect everyone.
Exactly, and I think it's also important to keep in mind that changes of scenery can be very big for players. We mentioned Domingue coming from Arizona, who didn't play well in Arizona, is now playing well in Tampa. Guys like Marchessault, he was very good in Florida and Tampa, but he's become a superstar in Vegas. So changes of scenery and coaches that you have behind these players can make a big difference, and a lot of people don't always realize that. So that's a big part of it as well, and something to keep in mind.
But that was our only question, or the fan question, and I'm glad we kind of covered it as much as we could, because like I said, it's so far away. It's going to have, we have a lot of people that we need to resign, like Point and Vasilevsky. So it's not something that we could really go into depth and really answer just yet. It's more something that we'll get into in a couple years, where we see the contracts of each individual player and say, hey, this is what's going to more likely happen and stuff like that. So I'm glad we kind of covered it as much as we could.
Well, let me ask you this, Phil. We have halfway point of the season coming up here very soon, and which means the All-Star game is getting closer and closer. In fact, voting has just recently opened up for the captains to be selected. And who do you think is going to be our guy to represent the Tampa Bay Lightning? Now, obviously, one of the Lightning players could not be selected for the captaincy, but out of the guys that they have selected, which is, I believe, Hedman, Point, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, and Stamkos, who do you think is going to be the guy that deserves the most on the Lightning? Because we have a lot of good players and a lot of people playing well.
Well, let me tell you what. Every day I've been putting in a vote just to get Braden Point in there. You're allowed to put 10 votes, and I've done it every single day since the voting opened up. So hopefully my votes will count and will help Braden Point make the All-Star game, because the way he's been playing as of late is absolutely insane.
I agree. Point is definitely, I think, the most deserving on this team. He's also the most consistent and well-balanced player. As we mentioned, Kucherov has kind of taken that playmaker role, which there's nothing wrong with that. But Point has scored 20 goals, I believe, or 21 goals, and has about 26, 7 assists, somewhere in that range. So, he's a very well-balanced player. He's also been very good for us in the face-off circle when we need him. So I think Point is definitely the most deserving out of everybody on this team.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice too about Brayden Point is that you can play him either on the center or the wing, and he'll fit in perfectly. And another person that we have like that, I know he's not eligible for the All-Star, is Tyler Johnson. He can play center, left wing, or right wing. So it's kind of nice that not only having those those people in the All-Star game, but also having them in our lineup every night.
For sure, and that goes back to our depth. Our depth just being so good in being able to fill in these spots that a lot of teams can't.
Yeah, and so you think that Brayden Point should make the All-Star game as well?
Yes, my vote would be for Point. Like I said, he's been the most consistent and well-balanced player for us. But obviously, I think there's a ton of players that deserve to go for the Lightning. I think a lot of them will get left out. For example, one guy that some people are wondering why is not on the list to be able to vote for is Ryan McDonagh. Ryan McDonagh has had a fantastic season so far. He's really stepped up his game, and I'd like to see him in the All-Star game.
Yeah, you can always kind of write him in or so, but it's kind of interesting, like you say, that he's not eligible. He's not as one of those people that are listed on the autofill, I guess you could say.
Right, and that just shows, though, how many superstars are on the Lightning. Every team, I believe, has the same amount of players that can be, or that are on the, the front of things. Obviously, you can write them in, like you said, but the Lightning just have so many top-tier players that somebody's going to get left out, like I mentioned. So, hopefully we can get the most in. Last year we had, 4 players, I believe, if I'm correct, in the All-Star game. So, hopefully we can see that again.
We had Nikita Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, and Bazzi, and Point actually filled in for Hedman. So
right,
it's crazy how you can see that we have such talented players, because if one goes down, another person is going to go back up in their place.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. It was kind of cool too, because usually a forward doesn't play defense, but Brayden Point was actually picked to play defense.
Right, which is really cool. And I think a part of that, too, was that the All-Star game was in Tampa, too. So they wanted to give Tampa fans as many Tampa players as they could. So I think we're definitely going to see a couple of guys.
That's what usually happens, too.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see a couple of guys get left out this year, unfortunately. But there's definitely a lot of players to be deserving to go. I think, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, Stamkos, Vassie, even Domingue. I would love to see Domingue get in if he can continue how he's playing. He's played fantastic.
Unfortunately, I don't think Domingue would get in because, like I said, of how many talented superstars we have. But you do have to pay kind of an attest to him on how he played. He did get the second star of the week last week, so he is really talented. And like I said before, I'm glad we have him on our team, so that way we can fill in for Bazzi if he needs rest. But I think that's pretty much it so far. We will be back, try to be back every week now. Unfortunately, it was a little bit difficult with having Jake having his finals and me with having work. But, we'll try to get it once a week, try to preview up the games and kind of go back and recap every single game period by period. Kind of like how we do in the post games, if you have read those. And that's it for this week. And make sure to catch us next week when we review the games, how they went.